Hi Tribe, I'm Evelyn and this is Demon Dialogues, the place on Objectively Type where we talk about everybody's favorite topic, our demons. Today, I'd like to talk about something I like to call where in the world is reality not movable? Which is basically, so the interesting thing about objective personality system, the OPS system, is that, and the thing that differentiates it from other Jungian typology systems, if you will, is that Dave and Shannon have kind of found that the cognitive functions have what they call a masculine or feminine charge. And so I know that like some people get kind of caught up in the language of masculine and feminine. So you can think of it this way. Masculine is where you're just not movable, where you're rigid, straight, just not movable. And then feminine areas are areas that are a little bit more movable. And the way it works with the cognitive functions is each of us in our savior and demon stack, right? We have two functions that are feminine and then two functions that are masculine. And it has to do with the observer decider axis. So for example, I lead with feminine NE. So the flip side of my NE is my SI, and my SI is masculine. And in a similar vein, I have savior TE, and so my FI, which is the flip side of TE, is feminine. So the feminine and masculine aspect of the cognitive functions is something that I don't think anybody else has ever talked about. But I know for me and for a lot of other people that I've talked to in the class and so forth, it is a huge differentiator. It's huge. So I want to talk a little bit about the demons or the struggles that can come up because of your masculine functions. Everybody has two masculine functions and it's going to show up differently for different people. For example, I have masculine ST. So my sensory is masculine and my TE is very masculine. And so what the result ends up being is like, even though SI is my fourth demon, like it's my fourth function, it's down at the bottom of my stack, like it's an ENFP, I should not be too conscious of my SI even, but I really am. And the reason is the sensory is just so unmovable. Like it's like I have to deal with the sensory. Like I can't get around it, or the only way I get around it is with my NE. My extroverted intuition can kind of think its way around, but not only is my SI introverted, so it's kind of like controlled, I need my sensory controlled. It's a demon, so that means like I often don't take responsibility to control it, and it's masculine, which means it's not movable. So what that ends up being is like, it's a combination that makes like the way I've seen it show up in my life, for example, because of my SI demon, is this sort of, it's kind of a funny little, the ENFP grammar Nazi thing of like someone will say something grammatically wrong and I just like, I have to punch on that because it's like, oh, that sensory's wrong. Bah! And for me, because it's a demon, it's very reactionary. Like it's not consciously controlled. Similar vein, I've got masculine TE, which means that my TE, my sort of my block banging reason machine is very solid. So when I come up with like, okay, that's like the best reason, or when we're trying to figure out a problem, like it's very solid to me. And the tribe, and because your extroverted decider is kind of associated with the tribe is not movable for me. Not only is it a savior, but it's also not movable. So if I come against the tribe, I'm the one that's going to have to like move around the tribe. My feminine FI, my feminine identity has to move itself around this immovable object that is the tribe. Another example of this that they've talked about in the class is what they call like the Hulk, the Hulk syndrome, where they talk about the NT kind of being the sort of, I don't want to say like higher functions, but like the human brain is like NT. And then SF is the more animalistic part of us, the sensory, the feeling, like those are the parts that like animals can do. And so for people who have like a double feminine NT world and then a double masculine SF world, they have this like Hulk flipping ability where it's like, I shouldn't even say ability. It's almost like it's a problem, right? Is they're very movable with their N and Ts, but like when it comes to their SF, they're very solid and punchy on the S and the feeling. So their feelings are very real and very expressive, and their sensory, like masculine sensory, sort of in a jokey way, we hit on the sensory world. That's why I keep sort of showing this banging thing, because the sensory world's not moving. So we'll hit against it. Another variation of this is introverted world versus extroverted world. That kind of like contrast of like like my podcasting partner Versavia, she has this where the external world, in her case her SE and her TE, is solid and not movable, but that internal world, her FI and her NI, are very movable. And so it's a challenge because it's like the external world, I can't change that, but I can move and change around the internal world. So what do you do with this? Like, how do you work with this phenomena? I'll just share what my experience has been, which is, first of all, knowing is half the battle. I know I keep saying that, but like knowing where you're not movable versus where you're movable is huge. And for me, with like feminine FI, so my introverted world is very feminine, or my introverted decider is very feminine. I have learned to give that introverted decider a little bit more space and a little bit more ability to move around and not be so sort of angry at it for being movable. So what does that mean? Like in terms of FI, it means that like my values might change. My feelings are very fluid. You know, I can be moved pretty easily emotionally, and that's okay. And it's like, let that be. Understand that there are areas where you're movable and then there's areas that are going to be more solid. The other thing I try to do is I keep an eye out for that of like, okay, where am I punching unnecessarily? Where am I really wanting to hit? And can I pull that hit back for a moment? Even that is huge. Like me knowing that I have this double masculine ST world, right? It helps me to recognize when I'm doing it, when I'm punching on the sensory and when I'm punching on the extroverted decider. Because for me, it comes out a lot in communication. For me, it comes out a lot of like, I'll be in a fight with my partner, for example, and I will be just nailing on this fact and this fact and this fact. And I have to take a step back and I have to look at this and say, wait a minute. I'm just hammering on these SI facts because those are like what's not, like I'm distracted by it because they're so immovable. Can I take a wider perspective? Can I allow the facts to be a little bit more fluid and get at the meaning behind them? Can I use my NE to sort of get past that and say, okay, what's going on? What's the deeper meaning going on here? So yeah, there's going to be some areas where you're just not that movable. That is an interesting little phenomena that Dave and Shannon have stumbled upon, and I have seen it play out in my own life, and I'm curious to see how other people have seen it play out. What have you done to work with it? Like I said, I think for this one, it's just knowing where it's not movable and understanding that, and understanding sort of the difference between the savior demon aspects of it versus the masculine feminine aspects, right? Because I think when you're typing another person, that can be the challenge. Like, is the masculine function their savior, or is it just their masculine function? And so you got to watch for that. You got to look for that. So let me know what you think. Love talking to you guys. Until next time, bye.